I think you are right.
Choice.
Because it doesn't take a short time.
Ages.
Yeah, it takes a long time, but with the horizontal learning, with our exchange programs that make women participation to be strong in other countries, that SDI is doing, is about to empower each other and strengthen, and even the government. For an example, I have been mobilizing Swaziland for 2 months, but within the 2 months, we were able to get to sit with the ministry, the housing ministry, and the housing ministry was so touched about women participation and saving schemes. Then eventually he decided that a 5.8 million rands must be contributed towards an organization that is saving. So it means with them, there is a process that has to be taken in terms of the exchange programs, government to government, community to community, and then it may happen maybe in 2 years' time that the government see that, hey, we can be helped by other countries to get some funds. Maybe another institution is going to give us, because most of the time, even us as communities, we don't understand that there must be a fundraising. Once there is an organization that is raising a need, the government has to fundraise. Any other institution has to do something. Then it doesn't take 1 day. It needs for them to assess if the members of the communities are serious in being organized. And then after seeing that they are organized, they can be able to raise funds for that particular program. So maybe exchange programs, more exchange programs need to be done to their country so that they can be strong and see maybe the government take an exchange to another country, then they can learn and come up with solutions.
Very energizing.
Yes, yes. I could share a little bit what I learned from my research in Mozambique, and also visited an organization in South Africa, Sewa, which was just to learn about these experiences of exchanging between organizations of vendors in 2 cities, in Durban and in London. And there were all sorts of contrasts and synergies, but also tensions that arise out of that. And the benefits and the on this, the strengthening aspect of this exchange was that so there were 2 exchange visits. There was a Mozambican delegation going to Durban, and then the Durban Association also sent a delegation to Maputo. And when the South Africans were in Maputo, they paid a visit to the local government, and there the South Africans were very vocal, and very putting pressure on the local government to change their practices, and the local government is particularly oppressive towards the vendors and marketeers. And so this did make an impact, because the local government officials, they realized that what they do, evicting people and arresting people and beating up people, gets known abroad, and they also became impressed. They realized that these local, seemingly powerless local organizations backed up by an international movement, of which these different organizations are part. The other aspect of this that raised quite some tensions was that the South African group was quite outspoken in terms of gender issues, and Mozambique and South Africa, neighboring countries, totally different on these issues. And so the Mozambican association that I was studying, it's an association of women, lots of women members, but the leadership is men, and the women, they don't have that influence they could have in decision making within the association. So South Africans were talking to the South African women leaders of the association, were talking to the male leaders and sort of feeling strange that they could not speak to the women and listen to the women. So this was a bit of a shock, but to bring up the gender aspect we're talking about. It's about associations, but we also need to look at these gender imbalances and what these exchanges can bring about, because it did shake the gender hierarchy within the association.
What can these associations bring about?
Can be things we didn't expect.
running towards the end of our time period here, but I wanted to give people a chance to make any concluding comments. But I wanted to also comment on the notion of things, the point you just made. For me, what happens when I go to conferences, I frequently see things I never knew. I learn things I didn't expect to learn, because there's always information that I don't know that I find from people, and I also bring information and try to present things that people aren't aware of from where they come from. So the whole concept of cross-pollination and learning from each other, to me, is just critical. We only come to conferences wanting to say what we have to say and not looking to learn. It's a tremendously wasted opportunity. Always looking to learn. It's just so important. So any concluding thoughts as we wrap up our time slot here?
But we need to, this is a challenge.
Well, this is the organizer's request to us, is that we have certain concluding points that we come up with. But it's like a homework assignment. But if we don't have all that they expect, it's not like we're going to get a failing grade.
But I think we could just raise, say, 2-3 points, and then they have questions to raise with the politicians. This is quite important.
Oh, the politicians tomorrow. Yeah.
And it's Swedish politicians, I guess.
I presume so.
So what I think then that, it's not like this is all up to the urban planners developing cities. They do also have a responsibility. I don't know what kind of people are coming, but say if we say that international exchange is important, well, facilitate with the visa.
Facilitate with the visa.
Things like that. This is a time to put some pressure to say, look, these international experiences are important for us to put pressure on governments to improve gender exchange or whatever.
How about another question is, what can be done at your level to let communities set the agenda?
What can politicians do?
That allows communities to set the agenda.
I mean, the agenda always comes down. I'm talking about donor aid. Comes with so many strings attached to it, and so many reporting requirements, and so many constraints, and so many time lags, that when a group like this needs some small assistance to do what it's doing.
We're doing that. We're wrapping up.
It becomes hamstrung by the requirements of the donor. So what can be done to free up the constraints on donor funding so that communities are given the freedom to do what they do well and to make use of their skills in the best possible way, which sometimes means learning by making mistakes as well.
I think
donor funding doesn't allow for mistakes to be made.
Well,
and also at this moment, Sweden is changing policies, so they want to work less and less with community at community level and more on an international level. Sadly enough, but that is what is happening. So they want to give more money to the bigger schemes, and not be so involved in the decisions. That is the current policy.
Well, one question that I wanted to remember to ask is, in your work, does the sustainable development and eliminate use of poisons and use of things that are harmful to the environment, and get away from fuels that are oil-based and into things that are from the sun or from the wind? Is any of that factoring in? Because that's a parallel concern that I'm wondering how urban activities can promote. Is sustainable development reaching your activities?